Okay, Justin, we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Future of Education and Work series. Today, we'll explore the fascinating realm of beyond the classroom and we'll talk about the future of remote learning. At the Cube, we are on a mission to upgrade the virtual experience. We build 3D virtual spaces that enable more real life-like interactions and superpower it with AI. Immersive education is one of the fields that we are revolutionizing using our platform. And today, joining us is Justin Goldston, a distinguished professor of project and supply chain management at Penn State University, and also a seasoned startup advisor. Justin's expertise bridges academia and the business world, and he'll be providing us with unique insights into the synergy between remote learning and immersive technologies. Justin, welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you. Thank you for taking the time to come and share your insights with us.
Yes,
Could
nice
you
for having me.
Sure. Could you please share in your own words a little more about your background?
Yeah, so I did a lot of work. I did a lot of work within academia in the project and supply chain management space. Done previous work at Penn State. Also worked with Georgetown University as well as the University of Southern California. But I think that the most impactful work in the future is going to be the research on the metaverse, because I think that is indeed the future. I know that the discussions have kind of transitioned over to artificial intelligence, but I think that that's needed in that in order to kind of go to the next level of immersive learning, virtual learning. I think we're going to actually need artificial intelligence and leverage that tool to actually get the development that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard recently that um, AI is in right now, and we need AI to build a lot of the intelligence. But these technologies, 3D, AR, VR, will be the way that people will experience artificial intelligence, right? So that will be the UI, the new UI, if you will. What do you
Mhm.
have to say about that?
Yeah, I think that it's because I teach a lot about. So when I'm talking to leaders, when I'm talking with students, I always talk about the systems theory and systems thinking, where everything is integrated. So whenever we're talking about all of these technologies, whether it be the metaverse, whether it be blockchain, whether it be AR, VR, artificial intelligence, all of it's going to be integrated, and you don't have to be an expert, but you have to have a foundational understanding of all of those technologies and how those technologies work together, in order to kind of develop a solution to support the users.
Yeah, that's very so perfectly said. You take any vertical, I don't think there's isolated uses of systems and technologies, right? You bring them all together to form a solution and to deliver value.
Mhm.
I know you've been a pioneer in immersive learning and technologies. So let's start with our topic, directly related to our topic. Could you touch on how remote learning is transforming education and what role immersive technologies can play in creating engaging virtual classrooms?
I think that I think that the immersive learning, we were kind of forced into the immersive learning, with COVID, in that we all had to make that transition, right? And I think that because we were forced in it, because we were launched into it, we had to accelerate the development of those tools, right? So I think that if COVID didn't happen, I don't think we would be at the place we're at now in terms of the metaverse and in terms of immersive learning and things like that, to be honest. So because we had to kind of be within that space, based on my experience, if you create the correct platform, you actually increase the engagement. You increase the engagement. So I'm talking about it from an educational perspective. So I'm talking about it from a teaching lens, right? So you increase engagement among the students, and then those students that are normally not as apt to speak up will speak up, because you can actually be behind an avatar. So perfect example. So I taught the last 2 semesters at Penn State, in the metaverse. So in the voxels metaverse, because you can live stream in the metaverse, and because people can actually go into that metaverse and actually be in the avatar, you could actually go in there, and then because we have like a bunch of board apes, or NFTs within that space. So you have kind of have like a nice little environment to go look around and things like that. And so you have students that are more engaged, and then the students actually want to bring more to the classroom, right? So I think that if you create the correct environment, I think that you're going to have a more engaging experience, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I've taken a few online classes, and what I've seen is people are not always comfortable turning on their camera all the time, right? And none of us are. We don't want to be on camera all the time. And students, that's what's happening. Mostly, they don't turn on their camera, and sometimes even the instructors are not turning on their camera because of bandwidth or whatever the reason might be. So then it goes backward, right? What's the point of a online virtual classroom if those cameras are off? Second, so because of that, many students are not feeling the benefit of live classes, so they watch the recordings later. So kind
Mhm.
of going backwards now, right? We came forward to having live classes, and then we're going backwards to watching the recordings. So exactly why, like you said, we need to bring some value in that live classroom. So
Mhm.
putting people, taking away the pressure of being on a camera, which is not happening anyway, putting them in a gamified manner as an avatar, making them more confident about being there in that space, and giving them that spatial context where they know that there are others around you. You are closer to someone, you're not as close to someone else, and feeling an immersive experience will take that live experience to the next level, and where it should really be. It will get closer to a real classroom environment. It may not replace a classroom environment, but then not everybody at all times can be in a classroom. So it's
Mhm.
a very close best next best thing, right? So that's what I've seen. Can you touch upon any examples of where successfully they've integrated immersive platforms into remote education settings?
So outside of what I've done, because I do more experiential research, so I have to do it. I don't really talk to do too much theoretical research. I have to set up the metaverse, I have to teach in it, I have to actually do research, do some observations, and gather feedback. But there's a good use case with Morehouse College, which is a historically Black college and university down in Atlanta, where they've actually created a metaversity, if you will, where a number I don't think all of their programs are taught in the metaverse, but a large percentage of their programs are taught in the metaverse. They've been doing this since 2021. So I mean, chemistry, biology, those complex types of, because see, I think that was developed because those types of courses were the most difficult during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I can teach business all day long. I can teach supply chain all day long on Zoom. But how can you teach a chemistry class? How can you teach a lab, online whenever everything was locked down? So I think that Morehouse took it from a research aspect and seeing how we could actually make that virtual lab, if you will, to kind of create that immersive experience with the sciences. So that's one use case that was actually put into practice during the pandemic, and they're still using that today. University of Nicosia is about to launch their masters in the metaverse program that gets launched next month. So they're actually going to be creating a lot of curriculum within the metaverse. They're going to be teaching all classes in the metaverse. So that's another use case where these research institutions are actually creating these immersive experiences, and actually researching these immersive experiences. And they've quickly became uh, an area of study, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Didn't take too
Uh,
long.
yeah, very interesting. I've come across these also, and even things that are a little expensive to do, right? For example, flight simulation,
Mm,
police
mhm,
training, where there's a lot of cost involved in actually getting the things required for the teaching, right? So
mhm,
those are being simulated very effectively in using these technologies.
mhm.
So that's one thing where that is a necessity, right? So for on the other side, how can actually educators leverage these immersive experience to make some complex subjects more understandable and engaging? So to simplify things or to make things better from where it is today.
I think, well, like I think you kind of alluded to this before, from a cost perspective,
Yeah,
it's going to be expensive, where you might have to depend upon grants, federal grants and things like that, where you can kind of create an immersive experience from a geographical perspective, or an American history perspective, or a history. So you can actually immerse. You can put on the headsets, and you can immerse the students within those environments and go through World War II, and those types of environments. Right? I bet you that increases engagement now, wouldn't it? Right, you get thrown in the middle of World War I, World War II. I think you're gonna retain that information a little bit better. But again, that's going to come with a cost. But I think that that will kind of enhance that learning experience. Once again, I think that it wasn't. I don't think it was Morehouse, but it was another institution where, like, in they were doing like a biology class, and
yeah,
you put on a headset, right, and you create this immersive experience where you're actually going through the human body, right, and things like that, and learning about cells, and and things like that. So if you immerse the students within that environment, not just teach it, but immerse the students within those environments, I think that's going to kind of enhance that learning experience, and I bet you have more students show up.
yeah, yeah. So the history example does really resonate with me because I was never fond of history as much. I wouldn't get the dates and the events into my head. I'm sure if I was immersed into it, went back and was part of like a like that time of the history that we're talking about, and I could really see it and feel it and stand in between and pause and learn. I'm sure I would learn a lot more.
Mhm.
At the same time, there are students like biology. Maybe students are interested in biology and want to do biology. I'm sure if they're immersed and can get their hands on more, can experience more, it even helps you learn more than you would otherwise learn, right? So in any case, those who are a little lower on that interest level of a particular subject and they have to do it for some reason or the other, we can bring them up to a little more immersive learning, or even if it's their major area of study, they're getting more value out of that, right?
Yeah.
So totally.
And I think
uh,
I think I think I haven't really I've just heard this. I haven't looked at it myself, but I think that there's medical schools that's been doing this for a
yeah,
long time. Simulation, surgeries, and things like that. So, that's another use case.
yeah,
Medical school, you immerse yourself within the operating room and things like that, the delivery room, and that's how you do your training.
yeah.
So,
So medical, it's always difficult to get subjects to operate on, right? It's you need either live or non-live bodies to work on.
mhm.
So if those can be simulated, it's uh, very much welcome, and that's been happening. And it's been propelled forward now with the pandemic because people were not able to go into an actual lab.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
so that's being done. Moving on, we can talk about. So we said, see, these are going to really help improve the learning experience, but anything comes with challenges. So what challenges do you see in ensuring like equitable access to immersive learning experience, and how can they be addressed that people have access to it and people are able to, or what challenges can come in the way of accessing it?
Well, current state, the infrastructure is not there. right? So like some of these organizations, some of these projects, they're trying to kind of build these immersive experiences, and then whenever you try to upload it or integrate it within the headsets, they crash left and right and things like that. So current state, you have to have these immersive experience on the desktop. Right. So what's the point of AR and VR if you can't really, have an immersive experience? So current state, the infrastructure kind of has a ways to go. um, the user interface has a way to go. Unity and Unreal Engines kind of doing some amazing things, but if you want to compare it to the promises that were made, a year and a half, 2 years ago, doesn't really match up. I mean, you see the one picture that Mark Zuckerberg did, what they spent billions of dollars, and it wasn't even close to a Fortnite picture, so we have a long we still although we've come a long way technologically, we still have a long way to go to kind of create this immersive experience that everyone's referring to. Also, headsets. I don't think that the price of headsets are going to go down where you're going to have everyone has a headset. I could be wrong. Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. But it's going to take a while for that to happen, where everyone has a headset similar to where everyone has a cell phone. I don't think that day is going to come. But I think that if we kind of create some kind of programs, where the governments across the world and all countries across the world kind of creates, funding similar to, how we had let, desktops in a computer labs around schools. If we have a similar model to, headsets around schools. I know some US institutions, not even universities, but like down to the high school level, are getting like state funding to kind of get headsets and introduce students to this, within STEM programs. So if we continue to expand that, then that's where we're going to kind of introduce this to the students that already understand it, where it's going to come easy to them, because those students, they know Fortnite, they know Roblox, so those are the developers. So if we're talking about from a developer perspective, right, from a workforce perspective, they're the ones,
Yeah,
and that's the thing I talk about. We can't compete with the 10-year-olds. This is all they know, right? Those are the people. Those are our developers. You
yeah,
know. So, and I've seen it. I've seen it. These younger people are the people. I even ask my students all the time some things whenever I was developing in the metaverse, because again, they know Fortnite. They know Fortnite. They know Roblox. That's all I know. So it's like those are kind of the architects, if you will, in this kind of immersive movement.
yeah. So what you said is right. I think as generations go by, the way they interact with technology and what is really natural, right, it's been changing. So if we uh, earlier we would have had so much trouble understanding how to use a normal telephone and then a smartphone and then immersive technologies, but you can see the younger generation pick it up so quickly. A baby knows so well to just swipe things, and they kind of try to swipe even real life. They've been so used to swiping on an iPad that they try to swipe a real life.
My
And
daughter is three. My daughter is three. She showed me a function on my phone I didn't even know about this
exactly. So
weekend.
it's actually so natural, and that's what we're building. We are getting
Yeah.
closer to that natural use cases, and the possibility of building that is coming in.
Hmm.
But interesting that you say the challenges, right? So I see it in three or four parts. One is the access to tech, the headsets and technology itself. Obviously, price is a function right now, which
Hmm.
is pretty high. Also, form factors, right? How big these things are today,
Oh
and
yeah.
how and normally it is a barrier for people who are not serious, say gamers, right? Gamers, they're ready to wear this and sit for a few hours and play a game. They're also ready to shell out that money for that. But in any other use cases, people are not motivated to go buy a headset and wear it for, say, a classroom, right? Wear it for 6 to 8 hours a day. So that's definitely something that will have to evolve, and it will. It just takes its time, and maybe not as quick as we thought it should, but it will move. But there's a second part to it, is the platforms itself, right? So what we at the Cube, we have a platform which is compatible with headsets, but you don't have to wear a headset to really have a spatial context to it, right? So you can come into a spatial environment, you can feel that it is a three-dimensional space that you're walking around in, and you can feel who is close to you. So there's a spatial context, there's spatial audio, which someone closer to you hears you better than someone further away. So those things are there in the platform, which don't um, have to suffer because of not having a headset or because they're expensive form factors and all of that. So that's that second thing, the platform itself, and those are evolving. um, the next one is actually um, say the use cases and the belief in moving to these technologies, right? So once that people a university or a school decides that we want to get into these kind of technologies, embrace the latest and greatest and give it a shot, that's when everything comes to life, right? That's when we embrace these platforms, that's when technology is embraced, and that also incentivizes all these developers to now put in enough research and work into evolving these much faster, right? So if adoption increases, then there's going to be more leverage on those technologies, these builders, and more people will get into uh, to kind of improve these, because it's a need at that point, right? So it early adopters, very important. There are certain things right now that people can adopt in terms of those platforms. The headsets and technology that's not yet there will evolve over time, and it can be fast tracked with more adoption. That's how I
Mhm.
am seeing it. Any comments on it?
No, no, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. Where and that's the thing. It's like, okay, what is going to trigger the mass adoption, right? It's not going to. In my opinion, it's not going to be the developers. It's just going to be creating solutions that are appealing, that people want to stay in. It's like social media, Facebook, Instagram. They want to create that stickiness
Yeah.
to keep people on a platform. That's why people get rewarded for Twitter, for TikTok, because they're keeping the people on the platform. So, like, what's going to create that stickiness in these immersive environments to keep people in there, right?
Yeah.
Current state, many people aren't staying in those immersive experiences right now, right? And
Yeah.
now I'm not a meta fan, but Horizon Worlds was okay, right? People still didn't stay in there,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
for me.
But
If you figure that out, you're gonna make a lot of money.
yeah, as use cases evolve, and enterprises adopt it, then people want to, if you get on something and if you are bored in half an hour, then you won't stay on it. Probably you'll not return, right? But if
Hmm.
there's a use case that is improving the way you work, the way you study, and the way you connect with people outside of all of this, it's going to bring you back. It's going to raise that adoption. Yeah.
Hmm.
So moving on, we talked about remote learning and how we got thrown into this remote learning, and most of the on-campus learning became remote learning during the pandemic. But let's talk about, say, online education as it was before. So how do you think, and what do you think is the future of that online education itself? Of course, the on-campus things may go back, but what do you think of the future of online education, and what is the potential of immersive technologies there? Is that gap going to reduce between people who are choosing online education versus who want to go into on campus?
We're actually seeing it. We're actually seeing it now. If you look at academic institutions, enrollment numbers have been going down the last 5 years, right? Because COVID kind of unlocked these other means to learn, right? And as people find other means to learn with the advent of artificial intelligence, where I could actually train, if I want to specialize in a certain topic, I can train AI on that topic, and no professor in the world is going to be able to compete with it, to be honest. right?
Yeah.
So but it takes a certain person to do that. So if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you could get away with that, right? Now, some students need, that structure from a higher education perspective. But I think you're going to see models be developed that's going to disrupt the traditional higher education system, and it's going to be disrupted through these immersive experiences. Um, we did one project called SidTech where that's what we were doing. We're trying to create a university in the metaverse, right? So and we partnered with a number with two different companies where you can train your content. So like I recorded all my sessions during COVID, right? So I took all those sessions off of Zoom and I trained chatbots on it. Now I take that content and now I plug it into an avatar. Now I have an online professor that I
Yeah.
can teach tens of thousands of students on at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now the only gap is grading the papers, right? So yeah, you can automate the grading, but there are certain things, it gets to a certain level where, everything can't be automated. You have to have, a human looking at, understanding the competency of those students. So you're going to start to see models like that where organizations are going to kind of get the best teachers out there, the best professors out there, work with them on their data, pull their data. They have a proprietary data, then now you bring in the Web3 space. So now you can have NFTs, or now that professor is going to monetize off of that, like we see with NFTs now. Professors are going to monetize off of that content, and now professors are going to educate people around the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Very interesting. Like you said, first point is that online education is being preferred largely over on-campus education,
1000%.
and yeah, and these virtual technologies are bridging that gap and helping more and more people have immersive learning. And interestingly, what you said, now AI comes in, and you can train these models so that it can actually replace professors in real time to a large extent, right? So so it becomes more scalable, that a professor can now, and there are professors who are very sought after in certain
Right.
fields, and more people can get access to them now. Um, like many times, what happens in large classes, most of the classes are taught by assistants, right? Who are not the actual professors. They're taught by the assistants. So now AI can be that assistant, but much closer to the actual professor, because the model has been trained by what that professor would say and do and respond to, right? So yeah, very interesting. And these platforms can bring all that together, enable them, which is definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Now I do want to kind of I do want to kind of come back and say, I'm not saying that traditional education is going to die. I'm not going to say universities are going to die in the next 10 years, because some people want that experience. Some people want that college experience, right? So it's not going to go away. I'm just saying over the next couple of years, more people are going to prefer, these online immersive experiences versus the face-to-face type experience, especially with the cost of education going the way it is now.
Yeah, totally agree. So those who really want to go in for college education, on-campus education, definitely must do it. There's no replacement to real-life interactions. But what these platforms do is it enables a lot more people to get that education, right? Those who are not able to go into the college, either because of physical constraints or because of costs and all of that, right? So it only increases the possibilities. It does not really take away as much.
Yeah, and I think it would also depend upon like the subject matter as well, right? So like for example, if you had an immersive experience on international business, I don't think there's any institution that can compare to that. Because you could have business students from around the world, Australia, India, Mexico, all around the world, collaborating with each other. And there's going to be things you can't get from a book, from a case study, from a journal article. These people live it, right? So it's like it depends on the subject matter of, because yeah, if somebody was offering an immersive experience on international business, I would not step foot on a university talking to an American who just studied it. No, I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
How does it really work?
Yeah. So very interesting point there, very valid. Because how universities were addressing this is by giving like foreign immersions. So you do
Mhm,
a certain module of a course in another country. You have sister universities that you partner with and do transfer and all of that. So here you bring all of the students in a virtual campus together, and you have it right from day one, right? And you're
mhm.
interacting, making those connections all over the world and learning directly. Very valid, and it's a benefit right off the bat.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think it's a win-win for everyone as well.
Yeah.
Because even if you had a professor kind of moderating or facilitating that class, that professor's going to learn so much. She's going to learn as much as the students. He or she's going to learn as much as the students.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. So talking about that now, right? Teachers and students interactions. How do you think this can be improved? What can educational institutions do and adopt to ensure more effective student and teacher interactions in the virtual environments? Some of it is given, right? You learn because of this culture immersion and such, but there's also some challenges where you're not in real life. You are in a
Mhm,
virtual platform. So
mhm.
how can that aspect be improved?
This may sound a little bit crazy, but academic institutions and educators need to educate themselves on this topic. You know, because I've had so many times people asking me about immersive technologies, metaverse, AR, VR, AI. Because again, they within academia, a lot of those professors kind of stay in their bubble, right? They don't want to learn about this. They actually don't want to learn about this stuff unless they're forced to learn about it. And the school has a kind of package it up where you're forced to learn about these particular topics. These are my thoughts, my experiences, right? So they're not going to go out on their own and trying to learn about AI and things like that. So they have to. The institutions have to kind of create things where they educate the faculty on these experiences, and that's really the only way that they're going to understand it. Because I know, me personally, I know a lot of people they're dismissing Fortnite and things like that, but that's kind of the foundation or a jumping off point for all this, in a way, if you think about it. And like I said, if you can relate Fortnite, Roblox to these immersive experiences, now you have the students' attention. The same way you collaborate on Fortnite, same way you collaborate on Twitch, now you can collaborate the same way in the classroom.
Right. So that's coming to educating the educators, right? So
Yep.
having teaching them how to adopt and understand these new technologies, because of course the professors are an older generation than the students themselves, right? So students find it much easier to jump into that, but the adoption actually has to come from those universities and the teachers. So
Hmm.
educating them, teaching them. Uh, is the way to go. Any thoughts on how that can be done? Or how do you think that we do that first, right? So that becomes the roadblock to in getting this technology in. So how do we start by and where do we start educating and
It has to
getting
be
them comfortable?
It has to be because it has to be a top-down approach, because again, I'm just speaking about some institutions. Some institutions are so bureaucratic that it takes a long time to institute change. So it has to come from the top, where the executive team, the administration has to support, this type of initiative, because within academia, you're going to get pushback regardless. No matter what, any kind of change, you're going to get pushback.
Yeah,
So it has to be a top-down approach, and it has to be packaged where it's appealing, to those, people. Because again, you have to look at the demographic at most of these institutions. They have tenure, 50 years old, 60 years old. They're just waiting to get their pension, right? So you also have to look at that. How can you make something appealing where these individuals actually want to learn about it? Right? And
yeah,
you're actually some attrition is going to happen. Any kind of change in these type of environments, attrition is going to happen, right?
yeah,
So yes, you need to expect that, because it's going to happen. But that's kind of with any industry. But Yeah, it has to be a top-down approach, and you need to have something to make it appealing, and you need to kind of sell it where it's going to benefit, because it is going to benefit the individuals. Yes, there's going to be some learning, but it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, yeah, agree. We need to have a champion in an institution, in a any enterprise. We need a
Mhm,
champion who drives it and who has that vision and who is able to get it and move it forward. Totally.
mhm.
Let's talk about some. And we talked about some already. Maybe a few more if we can. Where these technologies are being used to simulate real world scenarios for practical training in various disciplines. We talked about some of them, right? Where we're using for medical um, labs,
Mhm.
anything you can think of where, and also for the history classes and all of that. Any more unconventional things that you can think of for the future?
So Bank of America, there was a story that came out. Bank of America is actually using headsets to train new employees. So I think that they have like an immersive bank, if you will. So like you're a
Right.
bank teller and you're actually getting trained on being a bank teller, with the headset. Right now, also there's from a it's not really from a doctor's perspective, but in hospitals they're actually like people with it's like for like cognitive issues. They're actually getting people like training
Mm,
people with headsets to kind of get the cognition back, if you
yeah.
will.
Yeah.
So that's another use case where these immersive experiences are being beneficial. Also, people like older people, that's one way to kind of increase that engagement with elderly. We had a big issue. People dying from like literally passing away from loneliness, during
Right.
COVID because nobody could visit them. So those immersive headsets is also kind of increasing that. And yes, these are different use cases, but that these are use cases that needs to be discussed, from an education perspective, so they can be researched, so we can actually measure, the applicability, for those particular use cases.
Yeah, I think the use cases are endless, right? You could use it for, say, medical purposes, where
Mhm.
rehabilitation or um, measuring activity, exercise, all of those kind of things. Also, loneliness and things, right? You can get people mental health issues. So all of these are huge possibilities with these technologies. So very, very interesting, and agree. It's about using them, people considering them available and adopting them to put them into those use cases. Right? Of
Mhm.
course, technology is not where it should have been, but it will improve. And if use cases start increasing, technologies will also catch up.
Yeah, I think that I've been on the lookout with Nvidia's Omniverse for a long time. That's more like the industrial type, industrial grade,
Uh, yeah.
metaverse. But that's going to be the biggest one because they're the one that's creating the infrastructure.
Mhm.
So I'm just waiting to see what they roll out with.
Sure, sure. Yeah, let's wait and see what that brings. Um, Maybe one last question. What do you think some best practices can be for actually measuring the effectiveness of these immersive learning experiences? Let's talk about just remote education. How do we know that these are giving results? How do we measure them, and how do we, from there, improve on it?
I mean, at this juncture, because there's not that much research out there, at this point in time, I mean, all you can really do is kind of, perform observations, kind of do like a mixed methods approach where you kind of take it from a quantitative aspect as well as a qualitative aspect. Now you could run, you do A/B testing. You run one class in a classroom, run one class online, like a traditional online class. You run one class in the immersive, type experience, and kind of measure the three. That's one. I hadn't really heard of anybody doing that, so that might be interesting. But yeah. So I mean, that's really off the top of my head without really thinking about it. That's how we can do it. Also get the feedback from the users to see how they would like things to get improved upon. Um, yeah, that's really anything I can think about. You caught me off guard on that one.
Yeah, no. I think what you said is right. When we don't have models that are already in place, we start by a brute force approach, right? We
Hmm.
compare A, B, very valid. So we start with comparing the two. We put the same person through two different experiences and see how they feel, or we have two sets of cohorts which are going through one and the other and check that. And over time, the measurements will evolve, right? The results will show, and probably we'll see more people embracing these, and it'll come over time, and we'll have also the parameters which we can use to measure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, no, you what you said was totally, I totally agree with it.
Excellent.
um, so very interesting discussion, Justin. We could go on and on, but time permitting, and maybe another time. So what we are saying is that immersive learning is here, set to revolutionize remote learning, online education. There are some challenges of technology moving as fast as we would like it to.
Hmm.
We don't have ways of measuring the KPIs as of now, but we build it by as we go, quantitatively and qualitatively. And it's about a champion getting others in the institution to get on this bandwagon and take it forward, right? So very interesting insights. Thank you for joining us, Justin, and sharing your valuable insights. And
Yeah.
thank you everyone for joining us. Justin, any parting thoughts?
Nope, don't have anything. I just say that, just continue to educate yourself on in this area, because it is indeed the future.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. And the future is here right now. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone. Welcome to the future.
All right. Thanks.